Hello, welcome back to Photoshop. I am going to cover project 3 in this video. Oh no, project 4, sorry. So we are finally on our 4th project, which is going to be a Photoshop loading screen. Okay, so this project is all about compositing images, very similar to how we did with the dragon tutorial. We're taking multiple images, putting them together, and making an entirely new image out of it. Okay, and we're doing that by making a Photoshop loading screen. So if you haven't noticed, a lot of the recent Photoshop versions have a really cool like composite image loading screen, and I feel like they're somewhat I don't want to say sci-fi, but almost Dali-esque. And let's just take a look at a few here. So I have the project files here. Go ahead and look through. There are a lot of requirements, so we will cover all those right now. So in this project, we're going to use the techniques we've learned in class so far to create a Photoshop loading screen. You are provided 6 source images. You may import one and only one image. So I'm giving you 6 images. You must use at least 2 of them. And then you may import one external image, but no more than that to complete this. You have to use at least 3 images. So you can use 2 of the ones I provided plus one you imported, or 3 of the ones I provided, or all 6 that I provided plus one more. But you're going to then load them into templates for display, and you'll have mock-ups of a web page, of viewing it on a mobile device, but all that comes later. Basically, you're taking these 6 images I give you plus one and creating a loading screen. Okay, I'm making our video lecture right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at some examples. The first thing I'm going to show you is the current Photoshop loading screen. And what I want you, well, I'll talk about it when we open it up. So here it is. This is basically the current image as it is without being in the loading screen. As you can see, it's a very fantastic kind of image. You can see why I say it's Dali-esque, because it's and almost like MC Escher, right? This is an impossible object, but we can make it happen in Photoshop, which is what's so cool. So we've got people, like in this image, we have people in a submarine. We have a, what's it called? Lighthouse. We have this water and these shapes. Okay, and this is what it looks like on the current Photoshop website. Okay, this is what it looks like in the loading screen. So if this is not your loading screen, when you open up Photoshop right now, you need to do an update because this will show up. What I really like about this is this artist includes his process. Okay, so this is a 1-minute video. Unfortunately, I don't have sound. You have to come watch this on your own. I wasn't able to figure out how to get the sound from the video input into the recording. I'll have to figure that out. But it's only 1 minute. We'll go ahead and watch through real quick and see how he puts it together. Okay, so he makes the shape, adds the water, adds other images. Okay, and that's it. This whole project in probably about 30 seconds. Right? We can all do that, right? Much easier said than done, I know. He's obviously had a lot of practice at this, but that's the basic process, okay? You're bringing external images, cutting out the pieces you need, and using those to create something that otherwise wouldn't exist. So I'll say up front, this image works a lot better when we are trying to make an image that isn't otherwise real, right? Because if we are using Photoshop to recreate an image that kind of is already, that we can imagine would be photographed in real life, then that takes kind of the fun and the awe-inspiring part of this piece away. So we want to try to make something that's not quite reality. That's one reason why I say it's Dali-esque. It's very, I forget what kind of painter was Dali. Salvador Dali was surrealist. So these projects are very surrealist, okay? So just like this is a surrealist image, it's like obviously these paintings are paintings, but very similar to surrealism, we're taking something that is probably not real and making it real. Okay, we're creating an imagined something from other imagery. Okay, so that's the current loading screen. We'll take a look at a few of the other loading screens. I'm going to start here with some historic Photoshop loading screens. Very quickly we'll go through some of these and point out some of the kind of neat stuff about this. So I give you all these links here. So this was before it was even Photoshop. It was called Knoll Software, and then it was Photoshop. It's not even Photoshop version 1 yet, back on a Mac when it was like all black and white still, no color in this yet. Okay, you'll notice that it has the eye. This is like a typical thing. And then a camera lens, and then the palette. Like those are done imagery throughout all the loading screens. Now notice this top image is the beta version. That's the pre-release version. So often they have very whimsical, kind of fun imagery in the beta version, where it's a more serious kind of branded image in this version. Okay, this also shows the boxes. This project used to be actually taking these images and making a Photoshop box by creating the box in 3D and then making imagery to put on the box. But when I started teaching this class almost a year ago, I said, hey, nobody goes to the store and buys Photoshop in a box anymore. It's all downloaded online. So instead of doing the box, we're doing the loading screen. And as you can see, the loading screen imagery is often very similar to what the boxes were. Okay, so a lot of the same imagery in the loading screen is used on boxes. This was called Tiger Mountain at the time. So we're on Photoshop 3, Photoshop 4, Big Electric Cat. That's a fun one. I like that one much better than the actual loading screen. Strange Cargo. Okay, very similar imagery for a lot of these loading screens. Okay, this is Photoshop Elements when it came out, and then this is Photoshop 7. This is the version I started using. Okay, often, I'm going to go back to this image. Often when I have students learning Photoshop, we end up with images very much like this. So keep in mind, this is Photoshop 7. Try to use some like newer type stuff than just like changing the background to change the colors and stuff. We can do a lot more with Photoshop now. This was Space Monkey. Keep Space Monkey in mind. There's Red Pill. Okay, and then the splashes got kind of boring for a little while. Not very creative. Okay, the beta version had Stonehenge, which was creative. This, not so much, right? Okay, then we're into Elements 8, and that's it for the previous loading screens. Okay, and then, so I've got a few of these from starting in 2014. This is one of the artists. And notice like her imagery is all combined imagery. It's all composites. Very surrealistic, but also kind of like a dreamlike quality. Okay, very dreamlike. And her work is a great reference for this project. So this is the image used for the loading screen back in 2014. Okay. This is another artist who is a good example. Now hers are composite imagery, but I believe that this image was not fully made in Photoshop. I think what it was, if I remember watching one of her process videos, this was actually paint on an actual piece of glass that was placed in front of her and then photographed. So this one isn't as much of an example because this isn't exactly what we're doing, although you could recreate that in Photoshop, right? So it's just another example. Some of her other work are better examples of composite imagery, like this one, for example. So somebody grabbing onto strings attached or wires attached to light bulbs floating through the sky. Okay, so that's a nice composite surrealistic image. Here's a quick GIF of how she did it. So very easy. I think we could all make this image happen, right? Okay, so it's very similar to what we're doing with this project. Okay, other examples on her website are good to look at. I'm not going to spend too much time on it right now. Okay, this is Alberto Ceveso's version this is 2015 release 1. So we're on 2015 release, I think 5 right now, which is basically the same as 3. So this is 2015 release 1. Now this was Photoshop's 25th anniversary edition, and they use this for this Inspire magazine, which is a Photoshop publication. And so he did kind of the branding for all of that, and they used that imagery in the loading screen. Okay, so here's the loading screen. Okay, this was on the lab computers for a while. Okay, they used it on the Inspire website. They used it on the Photoshop website. Here's the actual image. Okay, and then he did some of the branding for the Inspire magazine with this kind of paint stuff and the lettering. Okay, so very cool. We've got 2015 release 2 startup screen. And this artist also has a process video. So some of you might still be seeing this if you haven't done the recent update. You're not operating on too old of ones, so this is it in Photoshop. We'll watch his video. We'll get it going here to see his process. Here we go. So he's manipulating imagery he's already got, which is totally fine to do for us. He's placing it in a different background, adding elements, doing adjustments, adding shadows where he needs it, changing colors, lighting effects. Okay, so that's how we end up with the final image. It does take some time. I don't expect all of our projects to be as advanced as this, but this is the basic process. So I really recommend you watch some of these videos, and if you're feeling stuck on your project, rewatch them because they're all really good. And the current one is Jake Usfatz. I don't know exactly how to pronounce that, which we looked at. but I'm coming back here so that we can, I'm going to look him up on YouTube because he has some really cool, really short videos. So it's Jake, I think that's right. No. Maybe he's only on Vimeo. Let's find his website. Okay. So here he is, and then he's on, here's his website. Okay, so he's got some really cool images. He's, I don't know if this is like self-directed work or if he actually did it for Game of Thrones. He has a Walking Dead image here, a couple of those, some Game of Thrones imagery, and this is all like all really cool composite stuff. So this is, and he has processes for these. I'm just trying to find his, where's his process images? I thought he was on YouTube, but he must just be on Vimeo. So I'm going to go to Vimeo and look up his videos here. Oh yeah, that's what it is. Okay, so these are all really quick. I recommend you take a look at these for sure. He has a quite long intro, so he's creating like a Mars kind of landscape. Okay. Adding elements in. Now, look at how close he pays attention to the lighting, right? If he's bringing an element in and it's too bright for where it's being placed, he fixes the lighting for it to make it look like it's in the right place. Okay, so lighting is important when we're combining images. The lighting has to feel right. By doing that, it really feels like it's an actual part of the image, even though it's clearly fake, right? We don't have birds on Mars. We don't have people and big spaceships set up on Mars, but it's a really cool process video. He's got a lot of these on his Vimeo, so I recommend you watch them. Let's see if we see and watch another quick one. This one's 46 seconds. Even less once you take out the title. Okay, my internet's a little slow, but I think we get the point. So it's all about composite imagery. And you don't need to, we'll take a look at some student examples here. You don't need to use every image I provide, but you may find a way to use many of them. So let's look at the student examples from previous semesters. So again, this project used to be taking the 6 images provided. You were not allowed to import any images, but using those 6, you create an image to go in the Photoshop box. Okay, so that's what this is. This was before I started teaching this class, but so these are examples. We have a baseball. So every set of images has these 6 things: a picture of a person, a picture of a landscape, a picture of a pattern or a texture, a picture of an animal, a picture of architecture, and a picture of a product to be purchased, that can be purchased. So those are the 6 categories of items. And you'll see those same 6 categories in every project. Okay, so using these 6 images, students came up with, okay, some of these are very like kind of pop artsy. So a repeating pattern using some of the colors and the image of the elephant. Okay. The elephant with a bunch of spots on it. This is one I really like. Okay, and this one using the baseball. I'm guessing they're, like, I think they had to use a minimum of 2 images. So I'm guessing this was the baseball image used twice plus blue from there, although I wouldn't quite count that as using 2 images because you can apply a blue straight in Photoshop without importing another image. This is a better use of the 2 images, putting baseballs in the pattern, which is, you know, a pretty basic approach for this. Okay, we've got our person kind of set in the landscape, which is something that students tend to do a lot. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's definitely used a lot. Okay, animal, architecture, pattern, landscape, people, objects. I wasn't as impressed with these. Not that they're bad, but this one's a little bit more fun. We've got like these really large giants. Okay, these are the 6 images from spring 2015. Okay, I'm not sure I really see what this is, but so it's using the balloons and the bowling ball to like make something else. I'm not quite sure what. Okay, this one's slightly obscene, but it is a bowling ball. Okay, I've got kind of the eyes placed on a structure, which is another kind of typical approach. Okay, so now is when we started actually making the Photoshop loading screen. Okay, I still, at this point, I wasn't allowing students to import an external image. So just keep that in mind. So these are the 6 images. Okay, again, the eyes kind of placed in the landscape. Standard approach. Okay, this one's fun, and he's got kind of this pattern going in the background. Eyes placed in the landscape. But these are all still very fantastic and not like, definitely these are things that we would not see out in the real world, which is what kind of makes this project fun. Okay, we have a lighthouse in a snowstorm. Okay, and then last semester, these were the 6 images. Okay, and we've got kind of a tree man. I really like this one. I like how she did the background. So she used these patterns to make this background. And you'll notice now with this tree that I started allowing people to bring in 1 image because they were feeling a little bit constricted by only having to use 6. So I started letting people bring in 1 just to kind of help complete their image. Okay, so she had this picture of a tree with roots that she brought in. And she put the tree texture on the guy's suit. She used one of these guys. Okay, this one is kind of taking the landscape and changing it to be this weird dimensional thing. His imported image is the sunset background. Okay, Space Monkey. Remember that from one of the beta versions? So we've got a Space Monkey here. And obviously the Space Monkey is his imported image. This other stuff, the comets and stuff, were not in the original imagery, but he did those by hand using brushes in Photoshop and using Photoshop effects. So that's totally fine to do. And then he's got kind of the pattern in the background. Okay, here's another one. The penguins driving the car, and then he imported a space image. Penguin space car. Okay, notice students are giving their images a title, just like the Photoshop artists do. You'll be given this template to load your images into, and I'll give you instructions on how to work it. Okay, penguins in a car crash. Okay, and this one was really good. So his imported image, the only thing he imported was this image of the gas mask. So the landscape image is reflected in the gas mask's lenses. One of the guys in the suits is this guy. Has some really nice texture happening. And then these trees are from the from this background here in the bottom right. Okay. And another one, this one feels a lot like a music album cover or something. And finally, a more straightforward approach, but this one was really cool at full size. It's hard to see, but he's kind of disintegrating into a cloud of smoke. Let's take a look at the requirements. Okay, so you're going to download the project files here. You just click on this. It should open up an image that looks like this. And this is a zip file. So just you can click into it and see all the separate images, but just download the whole zip file right here and then open up the folder and decompress it on your desktop. Okay, to get the files. So download the project files, then composite them together. So you can do any combination of the 6 images I provided, except you have to use at least 2 of them. And if you are going to import an external image, which you don't have to, but if you're going to, you can only do 1. Okay? You must use at least 3 images total to make your final image. Okay? You're going to design your final image as a standalone image, and then it will be placed inside of the Photoshop loading screen. So you need to think about the Photoshop loading screen size. So obviously you're making a horizontal landscape orientation image. You need to think about placements of stuff, because when we're looking at how this stuff goes in, a good portion of the bottom part of the image is covered with text. Okay, so you need to remember that your image needs to be compelling without being covered up by this bottom portion. Okay, and you've got some room on how you place it inside of the template, which I will show you later. Okay, so keep in mind of all the different methods that we've learned so far in Photoshop class while creating a unique and engaging composite image. So the composite image requirements are you should be creating a web document at 3000 by 1688. So to do that, you open up Photoshop. Okay, go to File, New. Right here under Document Type, select Web. Okay, you can change this to the width to 3000, the height to 1688. Okay, because you will be using landscape, and then the resolution should be 300 pixels per inch. Okay, and that will get you the right size for your image. Okay, and you'll notice because we're in a web document, it automatically makes an artboard. Okay, so be careful when you click on that artboard. You can change the size of your document. Okay, so be careful that you don't accidentally change the size of your document. If you were to click here or here, it's making new artboards above and below your original artboard. So we don't need extra artboards now. We're actually going to be working with artboards later on in this project. But right now you'll just have an artboard document with one with all your layers inside of that artboard, and then you can create other groups inside of your artboard too. Just don't accidentally change the size of your artboard. Okay? That's how to make a new web document. Okay? Your layers should be in groups, all unused layers deleted, layers labeled in a meaningful way as usual. You should have an evidence of a healthy combination of techniques, including using layer masks, blending modes, filters, etc., to accomplish your specified effects that you want to do. Okay, so you may import one and only one external image to complete your composition. This should say, be sure to include, let me fix this, be sure to include an unedited version, original version, in your Photoshop documents. Unedited. Okay. That's what that should say. Save. Okay, you may also blur, invert, skew, transform, distort, colorize, and desaturate and reduce the size of images. Okay, you can manipulate them however you want, except don't upsize them, because that will drastically reduce the quality of the image. And you shouldn't have to. They're all very large resolution files. Okay, so any manipulation you want without degrading the image quality by making it bigger. Okay, you can add color, gradients, textures, and import brushes. You can use any combination from, actually this should say 3, from 3 to, oh yeah, from 2. It actually, that's right. That's actually correct. You can use any combination from 2, so you need to use a minimum of 2 that I provide, and then you could import another one to all 6 of the images I provide, plus an imported one. That means you could use 7 total if you were going to, but you don't have to. You just have to use a minimum of 2 plus 1 externally if you choose to do that. Otherwise, you're using 3 from the ones I provide. Okay? You must use a minimum of 2 of the supplied images and 3 total. Use the templates provided to showcase your image, and I will provide a link later to those templates. You guys can go ahead and start working, and our draft critiques don't need to be placed in the templates, okay? Make sure once you're done that you personalize your artwork title and or name in each template. And again, we'll look at that later. You may not add more than 1 external image. Distort or reconfigure the Photoshop logo or other elements in the template file, which you don't have yet. I'll give those to you later. Increase the size of the provided images, okay? So we don't want to reduce the quality image by increasing it. And you also may not change the templates. And again, you'll see the templates at a later point. Finally, the third step, give your image a title and add it to the templates, which I will provide. Okay, and then upload and submit it. Okay, and that's it. Let me think if there's anything else to cover. Not really. Just make sure you take a look at these, especially these last 2 artists. If you can find a link to their videos, they have a lot of videos online that show their process, and it's actually pretty inspiring. And it's like you watch it because it's like so sped up. You watch it and you're like, oh, that's really easy to do. Although it does take work, but it's really cool to see what they can do, and it can help keep you on track. So if anybody has any questions, just get in contact with me. Again, I'll be uploading the template instructions here soon, probably tomorrow at some point. But for now, have a good one.